First question, has anybody here ever called two-couple dancing? Okay, you've all done it. So you're all in here for one reason or another, right? So you've all done it before. Now, my question to you, have you done two-couple dancing because you didn't have enough to make a square? Yeah. Okay. So how many of you actually have used two couples as a teaching tool? So a lot of you have. So I'm preaching to the choir here, right? So you all are familiar with this already. A lot of people consider two-couple dancing sort of a gimmick, sort of something to do when you don't have a whole square. You say, well, if you just have two couples, we can just put two couples before, we can dance, and we can call the calls and make it work, and that works fine. But as soon as we get two more couples in, well, then let's just make a square, because now we can do square dancing, right? But there's another way of thinking of two couples is really a dance form all by itself, and that it's a valid way of doing square dance moves in a way that's fun and challenging and very stimulating in a lot of ways. A lot of dancers really enjoy two-couple dancing by itself without having to feel like they need to be in a square. We're all trained that we call square dances, and so we expect 8 people and 4 couples in a square, and we interact with them, and we have a good time. And if we have 2 couples, well, it just sort of feels like we don't have enough. But when we get 4, we'll have a full square. But there's nothing wrong with doing 2-couple dancing all by itself and having it as a standalone activity. Some callers do entire sessions on 2-couple dancing. I try to make, as part of my own personal practice for my regular groups and classes and workshops and all that I do a 2-couple tip at the beginning of every single night. So I always start out with a warm-up 2-couple tip. And in one of my groups, some people say they come just for that because that's the most exciting dance of the evening is that 2-couple tip in the beginning. And it doesn't say much for the rest of the evening, but they do like that first tip. They do stick around later. But, it's that much. It's not something to do just because you're killing time, but it's something that really is fun and exciting to do. At least I think it is. And if you approach it that way, if you really train yourself to do that, you can actually have a lot of fun with it. How many of you here are sight callers? Some of you, not all of you? Okay, fine. So if you're not a sight caller at this point and it's something you wanted to pick up how to do, 2-couple dancing, calling for 2 couples is a really excellent way to learn how to sight call because not very many people to watch. There's just 4 of you out there and not very many moves you can use to move them around to get them back home. You don't have to worry about the Alaman lefts and the right and left grands and the promenades and all that stuff. You just call a couple moves and they're back home. You say, okay, you're home. And either they are or they aren't, right? And so you work it out from there. So 2-couple dancing is a really great way to work out sight calling if you're a new sight caller, if someone really trying to build up your sight calling expertise. It's also a great way if you're a newer caller to try to understand a little more depth about how some of these calls work. There are many, many 2-couple calls. There are many 4-couple calls which we can use in a 2-couple environment, but I'm not going to address those. I'm going to stick to just purely calls that take 2 couples to do and talk about those, and where you get a little further depth in those calls and you understand a little clearer so that when you do end up calling a full square with 4 couples, you can use those calls in a more interesting way that the whole square can appreciate. There are plenty of 8-dancer calls out there. A lot of calls that take 8 dancers. And you can work those with the 4 couples. But those 2-couple calls, you don't need to have 4 couples to do. What I did here, both Dottie and I have handouts that are similar in nature that we both list out a bunch of calls that are calls you can use in a 2-couple environment. And both of us wrote some choreography to go along with that. Here's a handout. So before I get to the calls, though, I want to make a point that I teach beginner classes. I call for plus groups every week, a regular plus workshop. I call for an advanced group every week. I call C1, and I call C2 a little bit. And I call party nights. I do one-night stands on a regular basis. I'm calling at least 1 or 2 party nights every month. And I really enjoy doing them. I have a blast doing them. I once called for a group, and this just really amazed me. This group of adults that were all, say, approximately my age, 50-somethings, and they were all parents of a school organization. They had a special dinner, and it was a party night. And we had 2.5 squares, okay? And they all wanted to dance. They finished dinner. They all got up. They were all ready to dance. So we set up the thing to go dancing. And I'm looking out there, and they all want to dance. We have exactly 2.5 squares, which means what? 4 people are going to sit down while I'm working with the 16 that can do it, right? And I thought, no, I'm just going to set them up in a 2-couple setup. They don't know anything about square dancing. I'll set them up in a 2-couple. And they were sharp. They were sharp people, and I taught them how to do a few things, do-sa-do, circle left, halfway around, do-sa-do, pass through, California twirl, learned that. They got that. They did it. It was easy. It was short stuff. So I added a few more calls in, learned how to do a right and left through from there, learned how to veer left and bend the line and circle left 3/4, add some more fractions in, 2 ladies chain in there and pass through and U-turn back and star through and California twirl. And in the process, I did 3 tips in a row that way. They were getting so lit up doing this thing. We never once got into a square. I've never done a party night where it's just the whole choreography was 2 couple stuff. So we had, 5 sets of 2 couples out there, right? Doing this. Nobody had to sit down. We had a great time. And I started putting it together in faster and faster drill form, and people were whooping up. You know that experience you get when you're calling and you're on that moment. It's really good. You're having a really good time, and everything's going. The crowd is like cheering after every right and left grand or something. That was what was happening on this thing. I've never had that happen really happen like that on a one night stand, and it was all with 2 couple choreography. So I bring that up because if you're somebody who does party nights or one night stands, which I encourage all of you to do because they're part of the whole activity. You need to keep doing those. That you can do 2 couple choreography as part of that. So keep that in mind. Since most of you already do 2 couple dancing already, I'm going to skip some of the bullet points I have in here about how to set it up. But I typically try to set it up where everybody looks the same. So everybody's a head couple because then it's easier for me when I'm watching them. I don't want people dancing from a bunch of different directions. I want to call something and have the whole floor do it the same way so I can see if that person's not doing it right, I can correct them, right? So it all looks the same to me. Of course, there's no heads, no sides. We don't worry about any of those things there. And we make the drill short and fast. And they're great opportunities to stop and look at a particular call. If a dancer is not doing that call correctly, you can stop and kind of give some guidance or some advice about how they might do that call a little smoother, make it easier, that kind of styling thing that we don't talk about a whole lot, but we can get through there. When you teach your beginners pass the ocean, you don't need to teach your beginners pass the ocean. It's very awkward at first. They have to pass through, turn to face the partner, step to a wave. And it's a long, awkward process. And after a while, it gets smoother. But with the 2 couple, we can keep doing it over and over and over again until it finally gets into being a smooth action. So it's a great opportunity to do that. So I just start with that. I start with some very simple choreography out there to get people dancing, just to keep them moving around a little bit. Star through, right and left through, slide through, you're home. We all saw that in our head. It's just, we went around a box, right? That. And as we do that, and especially some people have never done it before, they say, well, how hard can this possibly be, right? I mean, does anybody think that? Has anybody ever done a 2 couple or say, well, it just seems easy. Just go around in a circle, you're done, right? It's how hard can it possibly be? That's when you do your homework and you dig up the CALLERLAB mainstream definitions and you print them off the website and you look up there and say, oh, gee, how do we do 2 ladies chain? How do we do circle left 3/4? How do we do do passo? How do we do these calls? Because even though you think you know it, and I've been calling 31 years, it always benefits me to review the definition. Oh, that's exactly how it. Okay, so based on that, I can call this. And you'll learn a few little tricks about how you can do that. And you don't want to kill your dance. You want to let me tell you a little nuance about whatever, Here's a nuance about this call, and I'll tell them that nuance, and so now we're going to do it. Now you know that call a little deeper, a little better about how we do that. Pass the ocean is an easy example, right? We know how to pass the ocean, but a lot of us may not call it from a half sachet position with the girl on the left and the boy on the right. A lot of us may, but a lot of us may not, depending on where you are. Well, here's a great opportunity to review the definition for yourself and for the dancers, and then how to do the call from that position. Which then begs the question, well, who's my partner? Oh, my partner's on this side? I didn't know that. Well, let's talk about who your partner is. So you go back to that discussion with your partner. So there are a lot of things you can go over with the dancers, and they will come back to you and they will thank you because they never really understood that little nuance, and you helped them out with that. So I want to emphasize that you have to do your homework and you have to go back to the definitions. Don't just wing it. When you're teaching recycle from that ocean wave and it's left-handed and the boys are on the end, be clear that you understand how the call works at mainstream so you can teach it correctly and understand what the dancers need to know before you can even get there. There's so much groundwork you have to lay before they can get to that position. Okay. I personally don't do a lot of asymmetric choreography. I know Dottie does, and she's going to talk about that in her presentation. She does some. I like to stick with symmetrical choreography because that's how generally I call my squares, is symmetrical choreography. You can do asymmetrics, but that's not the point here. I'm trying to get stuff that's going to get dancers moving quickly, having fun, and trying out different things and getting some muscle memory in place where they really understand the calls. And you can do it and be smooth. You don't have to be awkward and unflowing, although sometimes it can be, a different flow than you expected. Always use this as a way to help your dancers, not a way to kill your dancers. You don't do two-couple dancing out there to show them how much you know and how little they know. You use it as a way to help them because you really want them to be better. And this is a great teaching tool to develop their skills. You can help them be better. You can keep drilling it over and over again. And in the end, they're going to be happy because you raise them up. They understand something they didn't understand before, and you had a lot of fun in the process with them in doing that. They get in a square. They feel more confident. You're happy. They're happy. We're all winners. All right. So based on all that, without looking at any lists, how many calls do you think there are? Don't look at the handout. How many calls do you think there are in the basic program that you can do with two couples just doing regular symmetrical choreography? Well, there aren't that many calls in the basic one program. Basic one program, which is like calls 1 through 30. Yeah, so there's only 1 30. So there's about 15 calls of those that are two-couple calls that you can do in a two-couple environment. You go to basic 2, which is what you through Ferris wheel, about 1 to 54, and about another 15 calls. So you got 30 calls out of the first 54. 30 calls you can use that are two-couple choreography, in straight two-couple choreography. You get to mainstream. Now we start to get really challenging. We had another 10 calls or so. I can stop at mainstream and call two-couple all night long. And I can create an interesting program that goes from very easy to medium to really, really hard. All within two couples and all within mainstream. And if you don't believe me, get out the definition and start reading some of these definitions about how you do these things and start thinking about different ways of putting them together. There are just ways of putting them together that dancers do not expect, they're not used to, but they're perfectly legal, and they can be perfectly smooth if they were expecting it. They wouldn't be smooth if they weren't expecting it. But if they're expecting it, you can do it. When you get into plus, it just opens up, you can make an incredibly, a wide array of choreography is possible at that point. You can do so many different things. There's so many calls at plus, and then the extensions allows a mainstream that you can do that you should expect dancers to do as well. So I have on that third page there the list of the 4 sets of calls, basic 1, basic 2, mainstream, and plus. But I actually encourage you to start with just the first 2 basics if you're new at doing this thing, and just look at the different ways you can mix up those calls. Everything you do to mix up those calls helps you as a caller become more interesting and more creative in your choreography, and helps them as dancers understand the calls better. All right, so I put together some examples here, some choreo examples under Basic 1, Basic 2, Mainstream, and Plus. And I did three groupings, easy, medium, hard. These are just a couple of short examples. I didn't write a lot of choreography. Dottie did write a lot of choreography, which is wonderful. You can use that as some ammunition for doing this. But I want to point out a few things. I actually want to get a demonstration doing. So if I can get a couple of couples up here to do a few things, can we talk about that? Especially people who are not expert dancers, people who are just like, well, I want somebody who might say, wow, I've never seen that before. I don't know. Come on. Can we get one couple up here? And I want to have this be interactive and fun. I want you to tell me what you think. Okay, my question. Okay. So these people are probably more expert dancers, okay? So what is easy, what is medium, and what is hard is really caller judgment, and that was a different session last hour. But we have 2 couples facing. I think for the most part, you're going to know what's easy and medium and hard for your dancers. But you got to be able to distinguish that when you're putting together your program. So circle left, halfway around. Star through. Right and left through. Veer left. Chain down the line. Pass through. California twirl. Was that easy? Not for you guys, but what's your judgment? What do you think? Would your dancers be able to do that? Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so let's go to hard. Let's go jump up to hard for basic 1. 2 ladies chain. Half sachet. Circle left 3/4. Pass through. U-turn back. Veer right. California twirl. Chain down the line. Who said that? I was Doran. Thank you. Thank you, Doran. What was hard about that? Now, to all of you, think, well, that seems straightforward. But think about if your dancers were doing that. What would have been hard for your dancers in that? Half sashay, circle right, 3/4. That took a lot of awareness of positioning. I mean, these people are aware of their positions. There are only 4 walls in the room. Thank goodness, right? That's what I always say. We don't have to count for 5 or 6 walls. So once you go half sashay, that makes it harder. Once you start circling multiple fractions like 3/4, people just don't know where to stop. You guys are very, skilled dancers, but a typical dancer, once they start circling, going to 3/4, they just don't really know where to stop, So that's a great lesson in understanding your wall awareness and your fractions here. I'm going to go to, yeah. I'm sorry. Here's the microphone.
The comment is it really didn't matter if they did exactly the 3/4. The thing is they have to keep in mind the orientation of themselves with their partner and with the opposite person, because that kind of gets muddy as you make that circle around, and next thing you know, they think their partner's on the correct side.
That's right. Absolutely right. So they have to understand a lot of relationships here, including who their partner is, right? So the moment and that's the weird thing, is the circle is really kind of a square moving, you know what I mean? Do a half sashay. So once I say circle left 1/4, what are they really doing? They're forming a square circle, and then they're moving 1/4. So go ahead, circle left 1/4. See how that? And then they drop hands, and immediately they know who their partner is. Most dancers will have a hard time with that. So you can go back to where you were. Undo. Control Z. Okay. Yeah. All right. So now we're going to jump to basic 2. And by the way, if anybody has any comments or interjections or thoughts or questions, jump right in. I mean, we're just having fun here. All right. Here's an easy one. Square through 2. Partner trade. Right and left through. Veer left. Girls trade. Bend the line. Reverse flutter. Pass the ocean. Swing through. Boys run. Wheel and deal. Sweep a 1/4. Pretty straightforward. It's a long sequence, but does anybody see anything hard in that? Could your dancers do that? Okay, good. I'm going to jump to hard on this one, okay? Box the mat. Square through. Now, what didn't I say? What did I not say? I didn't say 4, did I? Why? Because square through is 4 hands, right? Unless otherwise say it, right? Good. Partner trade. Pass the ocean. What's different there? That's right. Swing through. Boys cross run. What's different there? Could your dancers do that? Probably not. My dancers can't do that. My regular dancers, I have to workshop this all the time, and yet that's at the basic 2 program, the cross run, right there. Did everybody see what that was? Do you want to see that last part again? You all see it? Okay, undo your cross run, guys. So here we have a right hand ocean wave. I just asked the ends to cross run. Most dancers, here's what most dancers do. And say, boys cross run. This is what most dancers do. Right? You see that all the time, right? They do an ends trade because they have no idea what to do. Ready? Boys cross run. They have to go into that far center position. If you're not sure about that, this is where you get your basic definitions out and you start reading them about how these things happen. There's nothing wrong with that choreography. There's nothing unsmooth about that choreography. If your dancers aren't expecting it, they will have no idea what to do. But it's great. I think it's great choreography to include there. It's rich. Okay, where was I? Left swing through. Girls run around a boy. Wheel and deal. And you're home. There you go. All right, so did you see how that was? I mean, we just went to basics 1 to 54 by throwing that cross run in there, by telling them to square through. I didn't tell them how many hands. I mean, there's a lot of things I could have had there. All right, mainstream. Pass the ocean. Swing through. This is the easy one. Spin the top. It starts to look like every singing call figure. Right and left through. Star through. Slide through. You're home. All right. Are we good with that? Anything there? Any problem there? And remember, you can add all the other ones up underneath that here. You could add in the hard elements at the mainstream as well. All right, here we go with this one. Let's go for one. Turn through. Right there, you're going to lose your floor, right? I mean, they did it perfectly, by the way. And that's the way the call is done. or it should be done, but your floors don't do it, and then they all say, well, I don't understand. Go back to where you turn around. This, what do most dancers do when they do a turn through? They step forward, they turn about a quarter turn, maybe a little half, and they kind of stop, and they kind of go, okay, what do I do now? Isn't that what most dancers do? Okay. Then they just go the sideway. Yeah, go back to where. Okay, that's what most dancers. This is a great chance. Well, let's talk about turn through, and then you go through the definition of turn through and all that stuff. Ready? Turn through. Partner trade. Okay, it's a half sachet partner trade. Spin the top. What's hard about that? Started from facing couples. Nobody ever calls that call from facing couples, right? Boys cross run. We just saw that. Good. Left swing through. Recycle. Can you dancers do that? Most dancers can't. Half of my dancers can't do that either. I have to workshop that a lot. That was a left-handed recycle with the boys on the end. All right? Right. Left do-sa-do. Just for fun. Left swing through. And that flowed one call into the other. Boys cross fold. Slide through, back out, you're home. There you go. So that was on the harder side of mainstream. Does this give you any ideas or thoughts about how to use two-couple choreography? And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You can write this stuff down, you can sight call it, you can put it together. But if you start to see certain patterns that you're always calling, the dancer's doing it, well, that's great, they got that. But then you think, well, how can I do it differently without having herky-jerky motion? You still want to be a smooth choreographer. You're still creating choreography on the fly every minute, but you want to make it so the dancers can enjoy it, but be different and interesting. Plus, here's plus. Yep, go ahead.
Michael Malton for it. I was just going to say another thing from facing couples that is mainstream and very few people would call it. Left spin the top from facing couples.
Or how about this? Pass through. Wheel around once and a half. That is basics. That is basic. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Everybody see that? Good. Chain down the line. Okay. Boy walk, girl dodge. Boy run around a girl. Okay, you're home. So a wheel around's a call I use a lot. That's my personal favorite call because nobody ever uses it. It's a fun call. It's better than courtesy turn. Write that down. It's better than courtesy turn. Why is it better than courtesy turn? Does anybody know why? Anybody have any idea why? It's better. Courtesy turn. What's the ending formation of courtesy turn? Does anybody know? What? Into the center of the square or the center of your set. It's a little fuzzy. What's the ending formation of wheel around? The wall behind you. There's no question. Wheel around is very precise in how it works. Okay? Pass through. Reverse wheel around. Reverse flutter. Sweep a quarter. Half sachet. Face in, back out. That was all basics. Okay? So you see how that works? Wheel around is a very precise call. I love that call. And again, call it. Your dancers are going to stop and say, I have no idea how to do that call. Great teaching opportunity for you. Great refresher opportunity for you when you look up the definition how the call is done. Okay, plus. We're going to talk about plus here. All right, here's an easy one. Touch a quarter. Follow your neighbor. How many of your dancers can do that? So I make it a point to call follow your neighbor about 99% of the time and follow your neighbor and spread about 1% of the time. How about you guys? Do you guys always call follow your neighbor and spread? In my area, that's all the callers call. They call follow your neighbor and spread. They just, because they don't think the dancers can do it without the spread. And the answer to that is call it more without the spread. And you keep doing that enough, dancers will get it. And when I go out and do a dance somewhere, if I go do a Saturday night dance somewhere and I call follow your neighbor, I'll watch the square that I got my sights on or my modules together for. And I may lose half the floor the first time because they're going to do follow your neighbor and spread. You just know that, right? But then I'll say in your left-hand way, blah, 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 left swing through. And I'll call the sequence again or something similar, and I'll call it again. And about the second or third time, they're going to start picking up that I did not say spread. So now they're listening a little more carefully to what I'm calling. And I think it's a valuable thing because they need to listen to the details. Okay, left swing through. Trade the wave. What didn't I say? That's right. Which I couldn't find on the list anywhere. I kept looking for take a peek. It wasn't there. Boys run around a girl. Wheel and deal. Back out, you're home. Okay, good. All right, so that was easy plus. I mean, when you get to hard plus, there's just worlds of opportunity of all kinds of fun stuff to do. Fan the top. We'll do this one. Swing through once and a half. explode and right and left through. Half sachet, once and a half. Double pass through. Boys turn back. Single circle to a wave. Boys run. And you're home. There you are. Okay, so what was hard about that? See, there were a few things. He was looking for a 4-person wave. See, but that's great. See, he was looking for a 4-person wave. What did I say? I said single circle to a wave. You're looking for a wave. Then you go, let's go look up the definition. And the definition about single circle to a wave is a 2-dancer call. It's 2 dancers, and you end up in a mini wave, right? So that's how it works. So then you get to talk it over and talk to your dancers. Okay, when you do single circle to a wave, it could be just the 2 of you doing it. That's just the way it is. I'll do one more here. Spin the top. Okay. Hinge. Box circulate. Peel off. Yeah. I drill my advanced dancers on this all the time because I expect my advanced dancers to be able to do that call without fail. Because how can you, if you dance advanced, you can't possibly do trail off unless you understand peel off from there. And I'm working it back down in my plus groups right now so they can be able to do peel off from there. And actually they're getting pretty good at it. But it takes a long time working it. Boys hinge. Diamond circulate. Flip the diamond and roll. Slide through. Crossfire. Girls run, touch a quarter, and roll, and you're home. There you are. So, all right. So what was hard there? Peel off from a box. Does anybody ever call peel off from a box? Just say no. You don't. You don't. But do you ever think about it? You ever think about calling peel off from a box? Like, get lines facing. Touch a quarter, all 8 circulate, peel off. No. Yeah. But you ever think about calling that? You probably don't. But there's nothing wrong with calling that. We just don't. It's just not part of our current style of calling in 2012, but I'll bet in 30, 40 years ago we probably call that kind of stuff a lot, and we could have. There's just ways of doing it. Yeah.
Not to mention touch a quarter, peel the top.
Exactly. Or my favorite for those that call advanced, call peel the top instead of peel and trail, and the dancers, all they hear is peel and trail. They don't hear peel the top. My whole point to doing this is to give you some ideas about ways that you can use this as a teaching tool, not only for the dancers, but for yourself, because you can review the definitions and go through the details of how to do these calls. There is so much opportunity for you can have a whole evening and just going through, we'll do left spin the tops this tip. Next tip we'll do, whatever it might be, peel offs. Next tip we could do linear cycles. Next tip we could do whatever, all the way down the line and have an evening. And by the end of the evening, these people are going to be really, really strong dancers. They're going to have a great time. If you get good at it because you're a good sight caller, you can start firing this off like a machine gun at them, and they'll have a blast. They'll whoop it up and have a great time. Anyway, thank our dancers. Thank you very much, dancers. So that's my part of the presentation. I hope everybody has a copy of the handout. I'm going to turn it over to Dottie Welch for her part.
All right. So I focus a little bit differently. First of all, on the front page here, I think of 2-couple dancing as I've written, a multi-use tool. So 2-couple dancing, teaching tool for tricky calls, which is exactly what he just demonstrated. 2-couple dancing as a teaching tool if you have less than 4 couples. I don't know. I'm known in my area for the fact if I arrive, it's been a snowy night and there's not as many dancers there as I expected and we're less than 4 couples, every other caller in the area would pack it in and go home. Well, my dancers know that if they get there and I get there, we're going to dance. No matter how many of us are there, we'll find a way to do something. And one of those things is 2 couples. If that's where I am and I have no other options, we'll do 2 couples. I must say, Eric's right. You can do a whole evening of 2-couple, and we certainly do under those circumstances. I probably wouldn't if I had a choice. However, you need to be aware that 2-couple dancing is very intense. Very intense. The dancers don't get much chance to rest, unlike in a square, where occasionally you're calling things like head square through 4, and the sides are getting to catch their breath. 2-couple, that's not true. And to me, the implication of that is keep my tips shorter than I might otherwise, so that they don't get worn out by the fact that it's such an intense concentration. So that's a factor to keep in mind. 2-couple choreography is part of a larger formation. All right, so are you all aware? I think you talked about this. Isolated sight. That's essentially, normally, head square through 4. You're looking at your corner. now do some two-couple choreography. And if you've learned to sight call two-couple choreography when you only have two couples, it's essentially the same kind of choreography. You have to be a little careful about what's going on in the center of the square so people don't get tangled up with each other. But it's essentially two-couple choreography, and now you're sight calling to the whole square. Likewise, if you find yourself needing to do rectangular hexagons, you can set it up either that way, or you can have sides lead to the right in circle 6 and make lines. And in either case, you're either working in lines with everybody paired, and you end up with a 0 line, and you know the get-outs for that, even if it's 6 couples instead of 4. Or you do it as a long version of a chain through, and again, you can focus on those two couples. If you don't split them up, all you're doing is two-couple choreography. So that's a way to do rectangular choreography. Maybe it's not as fancy as it could be, because you can do stuff that involves 3s and 3s and do things, but it's a way. And it's a way to sight call it if you find yourself in need of such choreography. Also, I can use it in what I call a contra-like dance. So maybe I wouldn't set them up as rectangular hexagons. I just say, make long lines with couples facing couples. And then I can do two-couple choreography within those little couples of 4. And in that position, it's an easy thing to use a standard contra type of progression, which could be slant left to a right and left through, straight across to a right and left through, and now they have new people to dance with, and you go on with two-couple choreography. So you can drill with everybody involved, and you're using your two-couple sight-calling skills. Two-couple choreography is part of isolated sight. Yes, already talked about that. And so there's several possibilities. And on the back, I have one additional one. I may or may not get to actually showing you any of these. But you can set your two couples up in a Sicilian circle. Does everybody know what a Sicilian circle is? Okay, so we have two couples, another two couples, another two couples, all arranged with a hub in the center of the circle. And they're like spokes of a wheel around. And the easy way there to make progressions so they get to dance with new people is just maybe forward and back and pass through, or veer left and veer right, or whatever, and move on to the next couple. So you can do a little bit of two couple, and then you can change the partner pairings. So those are all different things that you can do once you master the art of using two couple choreography. And depending upon how many people you have present, what seems to be the thing at the moment, there's lots of options. Now, as far as the choreography that I put in here, I was focusing on the situation where perhaps you're forced to teach with only two couples because that's all you have at the moment. So I was asking myself, okay, as I go through the basic 1 list and the basic 2 list and so forth, how many of those calls can I teach to somebody? And I actually have a slightly higher number than Eric does because I stretch that definition a little bit. And I'll show you some of those examples. I'll tell you that I came out of the fact that my husband and I wanted to learn C1 and wanted to learn C2 and did not have a square. Especially at C2, I wrote two-couple choreography, called it to imaginary dancers, which we then danced to learn the whole list, and in some cases had to use phantoms. And let me tell you, that made me think a lot about what goes on with two couples and what you can do. I'm not going into anything anywhere near that complicated, but it taught me a lot about two-couple dancing. Okay, so can we get a square? That's two couples, sorry. Can we get two couples? Thank you. A different two couples.
How about this couple in red right here? This couple with the VIPs. Yeah, come on up. Come on, we have some real dancers here. Yeah, come on. And
you're trying to hide.
No, you can't hide. You can't hide. A couple. Yeah.
We need it.
Well, there you go. John and Alicia Becker, United Square Dancer America. Yay!
Okay.
Can we get one more couple up here? Somebody who has not danced before, a different couple. Anybody? Don't all jump up at once. Come. There we go. All right. Nobody's going to embarrass you.
No. All right, so I'm going to look at the ones that are a little bit different, slightly asymmetric. And the reason they're slightly asymmetric is that I was asking myself, okay, I would like to teach this particular call, and if we were doing it in a square, the effect of doing it with just two couples would not be symmetric. So how are we going to deal with that? So for instance, couple number 1, you're the ones back to me, of course, split 2 and separate around 1 and come back to home. Okay? Slightly asymmetric, but not a big deal. So now we've got the split 2 concept. Couple number 3, split 2 and separate around 1 to a line. Go forward and back. Everybody U-turn back. And go forward and back again. Now that's different. You don't get that in a square. The ends join hands to make a circle of 4. And circle to the left, the ladies center and the men sachet. And you're there, essentially. Yeah, I could Alaman left my corner and promenade if I needed to. Face your partner for a do passo. Partner left. We'll assume the opposite is also the corner, so come on around. Corner by the right, partner left, and roll promenader. Yeah, there's some traditional calls that do that kind of thing. Ladies chain across. Not all of these are weird, but veer to the left, ladies chain down the line. Here's one we don't use very much. You'll find in two-couple dancing that you find them facing out or they're turned a quarter. How do I fix this? So there's some few that are examples of this. Circle to the left, 3/4 until you're home. How about to do the heads part of grand square? Do halfway. Heads part, that's the forward part. Yeah, normal forward part. Back it up and bring it back. And everybody face in. You've got the idea. Okay. Heads right and left through. And veer left. Veer to the right. And California twirl. Heads square through 2. Just the ladies, you turn back. Box circulate 2 times. Now that might cause a little bit of burp there. Yeah, get your hand there. That's good. Face in. And if you need to, you can tell them they're home, but we could go on. Square through 4. You turn back. Star through. And California twirl. So those are examples from the basic part 1 list. There's lots more on the sheet, and as we said, that's on the what the format is that's out there, the PDFs, I guess, that they've put on the CD. Basic part 2, heads veer right and wheel around. I like wheel around too. Ladies chain down the line. Star through. Heads right and left through and veer left. The couples trade. Partner trade. Boys trade. Bend the line and star through. So there's a teaching sequence for all those trades. Head step to wave and swing through twice. Girls run around the boys. Bend the line. So that's a little bit of not quite so simple category. Box the net. I'm making it easier. Square through 2. And partner trade. Heads past the ocean. And swing through. Boys run. Everybody turn alone 1/4 to your right. Okay, so here was, okay, how do I teach double pass through? Well, there's one way to get them there. Double pass through. Girls, you turn back and star through with a boy. Now we're back to something more normal. Wheel and deal. You're all lined up directly after all of that. Star through, and you're there. Couple number 1, California twirl. First couple go left, and the next couple go right. Yeah, don't go too far. You're facing the back wall here. Wheel and deal. Zoom. Zoom again. And the leader's California twirl. So you can see that I'm making it a little bit asymmetric because there's no other way that I can think of to teach some of those calls. I want wheel and deal from lines. Well, it has to be asymmetric because I only have 4 dancers. But I don't want to make it off the wall. I just want to teach that concept. All right, moving on to mainstream. There's lots more examples. Work through them if you're interested in this and you want ideas about what you can do. I'm trying to keep it so that we don't run out of time here. Head couples pass the ocean. Yeah, we're okay for the moment. Swing through, and the boys run. Couples hinge. Girls run to the left. The boys trade. Left swing through. The girls run. Couples hinge. Bend the line. And flutter wheel. Here's another one of those kind of weird ones. Couple number 1, California twirl. All right. I want to teach, put centers in and cast off. Now, it's really hard to talk about centers. And if I were trying to use this as a teaching thing, I'd explain to the dancers that we have this move called centers in. I don't really have centers in this situation. I'm going to call it trailers in for the purposes of this situation. And that would be the centers. Okay. Put centers in and cast off 3/4. So now we definitely have an asymmetric kind of situation. How are we going to get out of this? Star through. And I'm going to do it again so they get to experience the other position. Put trailers in and cast off 3/4. Star through. And what do we do to fix it? Leaders, partner trade, or California twirl, or whatever. Okay. Heads past the ocean. Swing through. Cast off 3/4. Walk and dodge. Partner trade. And a right and left through. Heads, right and left through. And the ladies lead Dixie style to a wave. Boys trade. Left swing through. Girls run. Wheel and deal. And slide through. There's nothing really hard about that. Just to kind of give you an idea how you can set up that left hand stuff and do something with the left hand. All right. Plus. Are you all good with plus? Heads, step to a wave. All right, here's one which you really have to explain to them a little bit about what you're doing. If you wanted to teach acey-deucey, okay, we really don't have the circulate pattern, except that you can think about this as, okay, I'm facing out of my formation. So boys, your circulate's going to take you to the other end. And that wouldn't be the case if you had parallel waves. You'd have to go across in one case. So they need to know that you've modified this one a little bit. Acey-deucey. Girls are trading, of course. Swing through. Acey-deucey. So girls are going to the far end. The boys are trading. Oops. The boys run. All right, now we're looking at something else, a little bit different. Acey-deucey. So girls are trading and boys are going. The girls run around the boy. Acey-deucey. Yeah, left swing through. Girls run. Bend the line. And I obviously have lost star through in here somewhere. There should be a star through. This is the first one at the top of the plus list. So add a star through. Sometimes the computer eats things. Head step to a wave. Acey-deucey. Now, what do you do with ping pong circulate? Again, here I'm pushing the envelope a little bit, but you can get the feeling of what a ping pong circulate would feel like, remembering that the actual definition talks about the girl circulate path and the boy circulate path. So you really need to discuss that, but you can get the feel. You all know ping pong circulate. You have that feel. So do the center part of ping pong circulate. Yeah, and you're all home. Okay. Heads touch a quarter. I think like Eric does. Peel off. Girls go back. Boys step up and turn back beside her. So we have a two-face line. That's it. That's it. Wheel and deal. And couple number 1 only wheel around. All right. Now, if we do peel off from here. So this is the double pass-through or completed double pass-through situation. Peel off. The ends cross-fold. And I'm right back to something more normal. Touch a quarter. Right hands, please. Okay, now, this time away from the centers to your left. Peel off. So boys turn away. Girls step up beside him. You're in the middle, ladies. He's on the end. Because the lady was the trailer. Okay. Wheel and deal. and half sachet. Should be boy in front. Yeah, should be the boy. That's okay. That's okay. Heads do-si-do to a wave. Fan the top. The girls run. Here's a little different fan the top. Fan the top. Boys are going 3, girls are going 1/4. Girls run. Wait a minute, I think I switched here one. No, girls unrun. Sorry, I'm going to stick with what's the script here. Half tag, trade, and roll, box the gnat, and do a right and left through to get her back home. Heads, fan the top again. And that's tricky. That's a tricky. We don't call that from flat-footed couples facing each other very often. So that's in the tough category. Explode and touch a quarter. Follow your neighbor. No spreads here, right? You're good with that. Okay, now, recycle. And in this position, I would give them a hint. Follow her around. She knows where she's going, we hope. And you end up normal. That's my favorite next step up because the ending position is normal. Right and left through, and we're back home. Heads veer to the left. Crossfire. Box circulate, go 1 1/2. Diamond circulate. The boys trade. Yep.
Just a quick question. How many of you here think you can do another diamond circulate 1 1/2 and end up in a box? Nobody. Good. I still run into people who still call that.
Cut the diamond and bend the line. And last one of this bunch. Heads veer to the left. 3/4 tag the line. Girls face to the right. Now we're putting them temporarily in the 3/4 tag position, which only has 4 dancers. It's there. We don't use it very often when we're calling to a whole square, but it's there. Boys trade. Cut the diamond. Half tag. Trade. And roll. And you're there. So, lots of ideas, and I only touched on them. There's probably twice as many that I didn't call as are actually in this list here. And on the back, I have some pre-choreographed Sicilian circles that you might consider using if you have enough dancers to make a Sicilian circle. So, I find that sometimes it's easier for a dancer to learn a figure when they only have to concentrate on 4 dancers, and they do not have to worry about the rest of the square. But if I have a big group, rather than just have kind of random 2-couple stuff, I would like to have some way for them to move around the circle and get new people to dance with. And Sicilian circles are a wonderful solution as long as you have enough space and enough dancers. In my mind, you need at least 8 couples, so you have 4 pairs of dancers in each quadrant of the square. More than that's better, as long as you have the space to do it. One can put these in what we might call stacked or an 8-chain through contour line, but these are all written to be Sicilian circles. Thank you. I don't think I have enough space to dance a proper Sicilian circle here. So back to Eric.
All right, so what you have at this point is a handout from Dottie and from me and some ideas about 2-couple dancing. Did you get any ideas or thoughts about doing anything different or unusual out of this? Anybody get anything out of this? Or is everybody already calling this stuff anyway? You're all calling it anyway? Well, that's like preaching to the choir then. So what I hope you do is you take some ideas out of it, at least to go back and to go look at the definitions of the calls, mainstream, the basic definitions, plus definitions, all that stuff, and get a deeper understanding of how the call operates and look at it very carefully. Don't look at it from the standpoint of how you can trick or kill your dancers, but look at it from the standpoint of how you can understand the call better, deeper, and then train your dancers so they can understand the call better in a way that's fun for them, not in a way that's pounding them over the head with a sledgehammer, the way that's fun so they understand the call better, so they can have fun with it, and they can be more experienced and more confident in their dancing. So because the best payoff to you as a caller, best payoff to me as a caller is when they go out to a dance somewhere and they come back, they dance if so-and-so's in town, they say, they had a great time, they called all this stuff, and we had a great time, we did it all. That is the best thing I ever hear as a caller, because it means I did my job. I trained them in what to do and how to do it. They call this, they call that, but we know how to do it. And I love that feeling, because they come back and, wow, I actually trained them correctly in how to do that thing. And when they don't do it, they come back and say, we couldn't do this thing. And then I got to go back to my notes. I got to make sure I cover that thing, because I didn't train them well. So, I hope that you take that with you. I hope you think about doing that. Like I say, it's a regular part of my program. It's absolutely the first tip I do every evening in my regular weekly workshops, 4 nights a week. I always do that 2 couple to start out. And I want to make sure that my dancers get warmed up doing that, and it gets their juices going. And I think it just makes them better dancers. And I hope to encourage all of you to think about doing that as part of your workshops, as part of your club dances, or whatever it might be. Throw it in there. Dottie's right. Don't overdo it. Don't kill them with this thing. It's very intense when you do this 2 couple things, but it can be really a lot of fun and add like icing on a cake can add real excitement at one point. Are there any questions? Anybody want to add any comments or thoughts? Yes. And please state your name and where you're from.
Joan Duncan from North Carolina. I find in our area particularly that when you call a spin the top from an ocean wave, or you have the head step up and spin the top, they just can't do it. And I guess it's because we don't teach it that way from the very teaching part of it. And I find more of the 2 couple sight calling or 2 couple dancing from either a box or across the street box or facing couples. I don't see a lot of it from static square, which seems to me to be very, very good. I mean, you did some things there just a minute ago, because that seems to me to be a perfect way to get people to do those calls. But in our area, I mean, if I say the heads up to the middle and back and head spin the top, once they understand that I've said that, they might do it, but they're liable to stand there a few minutes in an open dance. I mean, if it's my dancers, I'd understand that. I would understand why they couldn't do it if I taught it, but that's square dancing. You can teach it, and then they hear it from another caller. They act like they've never heard it before. But I think that's good. I mean, the 2 couple dancing, I mean, it's amazing how many calls can be done from a 2 couple static square, box, cross the streets, any combination of 2 people. So I thank you for the session.
Thank you. Anybody else want to?
I'll just point out that spin the top you're talking about, for the general public dancer, so to speak, that's considered non-standard. Callers don't use it, dancers don't know it, and aren't really expected to know it according to that standard application list, because it's just not used very frequently. So that's a case of, are you aware? Now, certainly there's nothing wrong with your teaching your dancers and making sure they know, because every once in a while they're going to hear it. But you, as a caller going to somebody else's group of dancers, need also to be aware that they probably haven't learned it.
As Dottie mentioned, I'm Barry Clasper from Toronto. As Dottie mentioned, when you're dancing 2 couples, it tends to be a more intense physical experience, because the dancers aren't walking as far and there's no promenades. Like typically you're just suddenly magically at home. Do you find that affects your choice of, I'll ask you both if you have any opinion on this, do you find this affects your choice of music? Is the physical pace faster? Would you pick music that's slower, or do you pick music that's itself faster? How do you handle that?
I would use the same music that I normally use, which these days is maybe 126 to 128 beats per minute. I look for smooth stuff that I'd use as good smooth patter calling stuff. And I keep an eye on the dancers to make sure they're not flagging, because it's been so concentrated. And you can tell they start to lose their orientation, and it's definitely time to stop when that happens.
I use slower music when I'm workshopping. I use fast, upbeat music when I'm calling a 2 couple dance, because I go bang right through it.
Brad Smith, Terre Haute, Indiana. With 2 couple dancing, do you find timing as a caller being a problem, so that you don't get the stop and go and the stop and go? Because we're talking about wearing out our dancers. so many callers, you go to someplace, it's head square through 4. They get a step to a wave, swing through. Do you to keep the flow down to where they're constantly moving, do you keep it square through 4, step to a wave, and you swing through, and the boys run, and you wheel and deal? Is that, or will that just literally burn out a floor real fast?
I always aim, unless I'm teaching something difficult during the teach, but with the exception of that, I always aim for wind in the face dancing, smooth dancing. I know from my own experience that you tire faster if you're dancing stop and go than if you're dancing in a smooth body flow motion. What I do is keep the tips shorter. So I don't tire them out because I don't dance them as long, and I let them sit and collect their breath.
Ron Kapnick, New Jersey. You both call two-couple dances, whole dances. Do you have just patter, or you do two-couple singers?
Usually I do just patter.
I just do patter. It's really for just the patter part of it. For singing call, I just do 4 couple singing calls. I'm old-fashioned. That's a different session.
Michael Maltonfort from Chicago. Right now I'm in the middle of teaching a C1 class. I found a use of 4-person choreography that was nice, which is, for those of you who know C1, there's places that you have to dance with phantoms, triple boxes and triple lines and so forth. So I have people square up with only a partner. And I tell them they're all facing me, they're all head couples, and they're all facing 2 phantoms. So I have them dance 4-person choreography with 2 people and 2 real people and 2 phantoms, and to get across that whole idea of working with them, it works pretty well because, again, you can't get that far from home. You've only got one person to work with, and home isn't far away. So
the other side of that coin is learning the phantom stuff with only 2 couples is tough. That's very hard because you have to imagine the other 4, and then you have to worry about the phantoms. And it's interesting, but it's difficult. No, that's not what you were saying. No, I understand that's not what you were saying. But, the C1, that's, if you want to teach relay the top or something, and you've got to imagine those other couples anyway, then life starts to get complicated.
I always joke with my dancers when we do the 2 couple for the first time when I teach it. Listen, there's just 4 of you, so we're not going to go very far. It's going to stay really tight. And if something goes wrong, it's a 25% chance it was your fault. But we joke and they laugh about it. But basically they get that it's so tight and so small. There's they screw up. So what? We do it again. We do it again. Do it, and then finally get it. So they get to figure that one out. Any other thoughts or comments? Anyone? Thank you. All right. Thank you all for coming this afternoon. Enjoy dinner.